What is your name?
My name is Austin Nunez, and I'm the chairman of the San Xavier District, Tohono O'odham Nation.
And where are you from?
I am from San Xavier District. We call our village Walk, which is the traditional name, and it refers to the once flowing water in the river that is close by us, which is today called Santa Cruz River.
What did it used to be called?
It used to be called, today we call it Hiktan, simply because it's incised into the earth. The more traditional name is Ari Ak, meaning small or child river. And it is so compared to Gila and the salt rivers up north in this area.
And so, can I ask you when you were born?
I was born in 1956.
You're young. And so where did, you've lived there all your life in the same?
Yes, I have. I've lived in the same location since I've been born, and was raised by my father, my mother, and there were 10 of us in the household, and we grew up with no electricity, no running water in the house, and we lived right by the field, so we had plentiful supply of corn, squash, beans that we subsisted on, and my grandfather had a small plot that he used to take care of, and that we would always go in there and play around in the cornfields, and he'd always get after us for doing that, but that was life for us as children.
So did your family have like an allotment, or was it communal property at the time, or?
Well, of course, the Dawes Act was created in 1876 or so, and our people didn't view the land as being held by them personally, even though they were told by the government, you now own this piece of land, however many acres it was, maybe 120 acres. We never viewed it as that, and we still held it communally. And our area was on an allotment that was provided to our family, though. And so we didn't pay much mind to it, really.
Interesting. So your parents, who were they?
My parents are Michael Nunez and Celestine Romero Nunez.
And they were both also from San Xavier District, or?
Well, my mother is from the district, and she has ties to the Chickasaw District, which is on the main reservation. And my father is Gila River, and he grew up in a place called Babechul on the Gila River reservation.
So were they farming, or was that your grandfather, or how long ago were your folks farming?
Well, let's see, probably since certainly the 1950s into mid-1960s, and they were using water from pumps that the BIA had installed because the water in the river was not so plentiful anymore, simply because of the groundwater pumping here in the Tucson area. So those pumps were installed, I believe, in the 1930s, and so that was the water that was used by my grandfather to irrigate. Decades before then, it was river water from the river that was diverted to irrigate our crops.
So because of the depletion of the water supply, do you think a lot of people had to give up farming in that area for a while? Or was there a continuation of the water because of these pumps?
Well, the farming by our community was steadily declining simply because we became acculturated in terms of having to provide income to our families, to provide food, shelter, and so some of our people came into Tucson to work in various jobs, and so the younger generation didn't look on farming as a means of subsisting or being able to help themselves, but they were still encouraged by our grandparents and their parents to do so. But and at the same while, our parents realized that we had to get educated to be able to live in the outside world, And so it was kind of, that whole dichotomy of, do you stay traditional or do you want to progress? Or, maybe I think it's really the best is to have a blend of the two and be able to, always remember who you are and where you came from. But, get the best of what the outside world has to offer. And if you can bring it home to your family to help your family, even so much better in the community.
That's an interesting kind of dilemma, no? Did your grandfather or your family, you said they were growing traditional crops like corn?
Yes. Yes, and at one point they did. They must have leased the land to somebody, because they were instead of the traditional crops, there were. Well, we had the small family plot, but the larger area was all cotton, and so there were fields were full of cotton at that time. And I remember as a child that the plane that had the pesticides or whatever crop dusters, they would fly close by the house, and at that time we didn't realize that the chemicals were harmful to us, but we just enjoyed seeing that airplane flying around, being all excited about it.
The Pima cotton?
I imagine it must have been, yes.
Not the Aboriginal cotton.
Right.
So just basically conventional commercial crops.
I imagine. I was too small to know those details.
Right, of course. So, but you had like a family plot that you would grow food for the family.
Yes. Yes.
And who was working mostly in that in your family? Everybody?
Yes, everybody actually. Yes, and even some of our neighbors, they'd always help us out.
So how have you seen like the changes over time in your district in terms of like the land and the water and just kind of overall changes?
Well, the community has seen all the changes that have come about, and the most drastic change, of course, was the loss of the water in the river, and the loss thereafter of the habitat, trees, cottonwood, mesquite, and even the willows, and then all the wildlife that was in the area. So the major effects of the growth and development of the community and the changes has been with the loss of the water in the river, and with that the wildlife that was there, plant life that was there, which was, I understand, was in abundance, and I imagine it must have been like a jungle through there, but to have all the wildlife there was certainly a place where I'm sure our ancestors, forefathers went to hunt deer and be able to gather the medicinal plants that they had in the area and other edible foods that were available in the area. So that has been one major change. And then, of course, us as a community, we've grown from the small settlement that was by the existing San Xavier Mission Church. We've spread out, and as opposed to maybe 75 homes, we have now over 400 homes. And so the population has grown, and with it, social needs have grown, and we've been able to deal with those matters in the best way that we were able to with the resources that we have. And we, of course, had to go through a water rights challenge to reestablish our water rights. So after a 23-year period, we're able to now receive Colorado River water to be able to grow our crops again and commercial crops. And then we have some of it to use in our riparian restoration site in the river. And the rest of it is being recharged into the ground.
And I understand the water table is rising. It's a successful project.
Yes, the water table has risen due to the use of the Colorado River water on the farms, and then also with the recharge that I mentioned, and the riparian restoration site. And I understand that at one point it was 200 feet below the surface, and I believe now it's like 80 feet below the surface. So it has risen considerably. And with that, there has been a flow reestablished in the river, although it's for a short segment. Nonetheless, it did spring back up, and when that happened, all the wildlife came back immediately. The cottonwoods, the willows sprung up, and then probably about a year later, the native fish came back in the area, which was really a good blessing. And I believe, though, since some of the annual rains have come, they washed them away further north, but I know they came upstream from the Nogales area.
That's great. So have there been, over the years, I understand there have been kind of attempts to like purchase land from, or do like development on the part of like real estate, and you have, or the community has kind of decided not to accept that. Is that true? Have there been attempts to like kind of buy land or use?
Well, I'm not real sure about actually purchasing land, although perhaps there may have been people just inquiring about purchasing it. But yes, there was a developer that came in to request, I believe, 13,000 acres along the Interstate 19 going into Mexico. And it would have housed, he projected, about 100,000 non-O'odham to reside there when the development was completed. So we had to deal with that, and the entire development would have been on allotted land, as you mentioned earlier, which belongs to several families, and all those families had to be asked about the project, and if they agreed, then they would come back to the council to say, we've gotten 51% approvals from the landowners, so we want to proceed with the proposed development. Fortunately, that did not happen because there were some of us that could not see that type of development occurring within our community, much less, straddling our children and grandchildren with all of that. And so we began to undertake the process of informing the council, the community, that the idea was not good for us and it needed to be stopped. While on the other hand, of course, there were others who looked at the possibility of being able to derive income from it because the developer promised thousands of dollars per acre, and the developer had to go through a process, the environmental assessment process. And through that process, we were able to determine that the actual value that would be paid to the landowners was only $50 per acre. And even then, that $50 needed to be divided between 10 to 50 members that owned that allotment. So we didn't. We were successful in stopping it. And at the time, too, there was elections that came about, and that's when we got new people onto the council to make sure that the development didn't go any further. And since then, though, with that particular experience, we told ourselves, well, how can we prevent this from happening again? So we decided to develop a general land use plan and develop a process where anyone wanting to lease land had to go through these certain steps, which in the end involved notifying the community, and then whatever the community decided, then the council would then make the final decision based on what the community's views or expressions were. So that's been working very well for us.
So the whole community, not just the individual landowners?
That's correct. The individual landowners are also required to go through that process, just to ensure that there is support and that whatever the project entails, that there's sufficient land, there's sufficient water, infrastructure, and that there are no harmful effects to the community. And so that's the reason we did that. Yeah.
How long have you been the chairman?
I've been chairman since 1987, so that's about 37 years, I think. Yeah.
And is that, do you have regular elections?
Yes, we do, and I'm very grateful that my community has allowed me to continue serving this capacity. And so our terms are for 4-year terms, and it's been quite an experience.
Yeah, that's a while.
Yes.
So, and what about before that? How did you? What did you? Where did you go to school? And
I went to the. I first started at the San Xavier Mission School until about 6th grade, and I remember going to school there and not knowing any English, or very little English, and I was able to acquire English language and go through that process through the parochial school there, and then in 7th grade I went to in 6th grade I did attend the local public school system, and from there graduated through the Sunnyside School District. And thereafter I did attend Pima College for a couple of years. My intent then was to become a medical technician, and well, kind of like maybe even thinking about being an EMT, things along those lines, but chemistry just kept killing me, so I could never get that concept. Math was no problem, it was just so easy, but yeah. So also that during the time I was in college, though, I started my family very young, and then so I stopped school and had to get a job to provide for my family. So I actually went to work at the Sarco mine as a laborer, and did that for about a year and a half, and then I eventually started working at the Tohono O'odham Nation, well, the Papago tribe at that point, in the community development program, and was helping the various communities at that time. We had employees in each of the communities or the villages that would come to cells every week to talk about what their needs were, because at that time, and the families needed wood for heating, cooking, and they also needed water provided to them from the well to their homes. So that's what we coordinated, and just other social needs like that. Then thereafter, I went to work for an international child development company or entity called Save the Children. And it was the portion that was serving the tribes here in Arizona, except for Navajo. And so I got to work with the various tribes with their community development projects, and was able to see and compare how each of these tribes were dealing with their situations, which there were some commonalities, and so we were helping them to promote that they help themselves to be able to develop certain projects where they could be able to derive some income. And it was at that time then that the development in the community was happening, that I was helping from my position working with that particular program, and I was helping to fight against the development, and so the development was paramount in our community at that time. So when the elections came about, we told ourselves, our group, the anti-development group, if you will, that we needed to get our people into the seats of the positions that were going to be vacated. So they chose me to represent our side, and so I agreed, and not knowing exactly how things would turn out, my view was that they're not going to elect me. I'm so young, I can't, I contend with my elders, and at any rate, it fortunately turned out that we won most of the votes to get in, so that's how I came to be where I'm at today.
Okay, well that's great. So you're just a leader. And speaking of development, the relationship with Tucson, what is the relationship with your district and with you yourself with this area, Tucson in general, but also specifically Mission Garden and the Chukshan and the surrounding area? And what are your ideas about your ideal future for the area?
Yes. Well, being that the land where we're at is 72,000 acres, and 60% of that is allotted land, we we have that extra layer of bureaucracy to deal with regarding the allotments. So in order for even the district to use any of the existing allotments, we too have to go through the process that I mentioned earlier, which is the development review process, is what we call it. So we're somewhat limited in how we can develop there, but there's available land west of us, closer to Sandario Road, Three Points area, in that direction. And so for here, we certainly want to be able to live the way that we want to live as best as possible, how our ancestors did. However, we realize it can never be the same just because of the way we've been acculturated into the dominant society. And, we want to be able to have the same, we want to have our families live in a healthy environment. And we want still to be able to be recognized as O'odham people being in this area, and that the city of Tucson and Pima County, we've been able to work with them and be able to, in some cases, ask for assistance. Pima County has been helpful with our roads. The city of Tucson, of course, when we started our water rights challenge, was not very happy with us, nor were all the non-Indian water users in this general area. However, after all that time, though, I think that we're now at a point where we understand each other. We recognize we all need water, so we need to cooperate. And so it's disheartening to see that lands are continually being developed for housing, and this area can only withstand so many people just because of the availability of water. And even though with the Colorado River being supplied, climate change is also affecting that. And so there may be a time that they will not be able to supply the water from the river, and then so we begin to go back to groundwater. And then how long will the groundwater last? Because this groundwater underneath us is limited in being replenished. It's been there for thousands of years, and we're using it in such a short period of time compared to geological time. And so we need to always be cognizant of that, and we want to be able to work with everybody that are our neighbors, including the town of Sahuarita, which they've been able to reach out to us and work with us regarding their developments, because they're so close to us on the south side of us. And then I'm glad that the city has begun to acknowledge that we have been here and we are still here, and some of the presentations that they do. And we just need to continue to work together to ensure that each of our jurisdictions can take care of our respective citizenry and be able to have families that can look forward to a better future. And we rely on our children to be able to be the ones to learn how to be able to use less water and yet still have the same kind of lifestyle that we have. And I know our ancestors have always prayed for us 7 generations ago that we today would have a better life. So we in turn do the same thing for them moving forward. And it's really, really more complicated these days than it was several decades ago, in terms of not only our Native people here, but Native people all across the U.S. So I realize that there are other non-Native people throughout the United States that have begun to also realize and reach out and recognize that, maybe Native people had it right to begin with, and we should revert back to the ways that they were living in harmony and balance with their surroundings. And even that is going to take a long process to reach, if we all agree to do that, which I always pray that we do.
Yeah, and what about what we're doing here at Mission Garden? What do you think about, how do you feel about it and with regard to the O'odham, but also just the project in general?
Yes, I think Mission Gardens has done a remarkable job in bringing back the plants, particularly the native plants that have always been grown here. And through that, I know the seeds will always be available, and you've done a great job educating people about the plants and the way that they were used, and even today how they can still be used to cook and be able to get nutritional value out of them. It is it's great in my view. I know that we as as the San Xavier community, we rely on the San Xavier farm to be able to provide the same traditional crops for us, and other crops that they're experimenting with, like other, I think there's fruit trees that they're wanting to grow that may use less water. So Mission Gardens is leading the way in terms of and being in an urban setting, although had always been farmed for thousands of years. So I'm glad to see that it's revived again. And the programs that you have here, that you've been able to, the annual San Juan Day, and then also, I believe the other one, I forget which other, yes, San Isidro Day, that you bring people together and that you ask us to provide a blessing in the beginning. And, it's always great to see people enjoy themselves here, and then to again realize and step back to realize that this area has always been farmed, and that you're continuing to do that today.
What about, what do you think about what should happen with the land where the former landfill was? What would be your kind of desire in that?
Well, the former landfill that is south of here, I believe, the base of a mountain, is really important to everyone, especially our O'odham, and I would like to see it developed as a Sonoran Desert Park to be able to have the plant life thrive again, the wildlife thrive again, because it is a corridor from the western area where these mountains are, a mountain to the river, and that wildlife corridor should remain, and even have like educational kiosks talking about the history of our people. And I think then even as you have here, have the signs for the plants indicating what they are and what they may have been used for, and they should be in O'odham, English, Spanish, and that's what my view is. I know people have endorsed the idea that we as O'odham should acquire the land and develop it in that regard, but our community doesn't have the resources to be able to do that quickly. We hope that we can over time assist in some way to get it to that point where it is developed into a Sonoran Desert Park.
And what about the rest of the land that was returned to the O'odham, or is in the process of being returned to the O'odham? Do you have any ideas for what you would like that to look like? Or
yes.
What you think it might end up looking like?
Right. Well, again, I'm grateful to the city of Tucson for getting the process started to return 10 acres, I believe, of land that is here in this what is it called? Rio Nuevo, I'm sorry. Rio Nuevo development. I haven't said that word in a long time. Anyway, so the land there, in my view, it should be compatible to what is being used in the same area. It could be that it's a cultural educational site. I think that that's the way I believe it may be compatible, but I know the other areas here that is being developed by Rio Nuevo is housing. So I don't know if housing's even something that could be considered for our people. There's whatever is done there's a long-term maintenance issue that we need to be able to have the resources to make sure that it continues. So the ideas are still being floated around within the Tohono O'odham Nation. So I don't have any specific information as to when it will actually be acquired, and what actually and how actually it'll be used.
Yeah, because there's so many possibilities, right?
Yes, yes.
And I thank you. I don't know what time it is. I want to respect your time.
What are they saying?
Oh, good. So,
I heard rumors about it being turned into housing,
Okay.
but they're just hearsay.
Yeah.
Say things.
Yeah.
Someone said something and maybe
Right.
it's possible, but
Yeah.
so do you have any specific memories about like this area? Like, did you come to Tucson when you were young? And did you like over time? Have you seen this area transform? What are your recollections from of this area from the past? How it's changed?
Yes, I remember this area was primarily a neighborhood area when I was growing up, and yes, we would come into downtown area. There used to be a bus that would come into the community at 6 in the morning and go back at 6 p.m. So that was our transport in and out of from the community to here. I'm sure we could have hitched our horse and came in that way too, or wagon, but the bus was quicker, and so I'd come with my older brother, and we'd hang out downtown. And
Did it come on Mission Lane or did it on the highway?
yeah, that's a good question. I think it came on Mission Lane. Yes. So again, it was primarily a neighborhood area at that time, and yeah, I remember all the adobe homes downtown, and a couple of the restaurants that were there, and of course the Fox Theater, and then Jake's Hamburger Stand was the favorite spot to eat lunch. And yeah, we just hung around, and then we would catch the bus back home in the evening. And it was a shame, though, that when urban development happened, that it knocked down all those adobe homes. And
Yeah, urban renewal.
yes, urban renewal. I'm sorry, that's the term. But yeah, that was such a tragedy that occurred. But it was supposedly for the good for everyone. But those adobe homes, I think, could have been saved and could have been reestablished again and promoted its historical sites today. And that's what I know that the city of Tucson back then didn't do such a good job of. And I think, are attempting to do that now. I think they still need to do more to preserve what is here, but at the same while be able to move towards the future. And so that's one thing that I hope continues to be at the forefront of the city of Tucson's foresight.
Did you did you? So, yeah. Did you know people, other people who were here, or because originally there were a lot of other people here? Have you heard? Do you know when they left, why they left, maybe they were pushed out, where did they go? A friend of mine the other day told me that a friend of hers who went to Adi Chukshan, it was called Adi Chukshan because they left here, and so they went to Adi Chukshan. And so I was wondering if you heard stories or know personally about how that happened, like where did the other people who used to live here, when did they leave, how did they leave, where did they go,
Right.
are they still here?
Right. The other people that used to live here in this area, I think the ones that left may have left by choice. Maybe their homes were costing too much to maintain. But I'm not so sure why they individually left. Perhaps they didn't appreciate others moving in close by to them. Maybe they. I'm just not really sure. But there are still all of them that live in this general area, and they are ones who are from the main villages, or the villages from the main reservation. Their families are here, and so there's not as many as there used to be. I remember years ago they would have celebrations at their homes, and we would go there. They'd invite us primarily for feast days or maybe for birthday celebrations, and it's just I guess that maybe they just wanted to live elsewhere. I don't know, but there are
rural maybe.
yes, yes, and some of them have moved back to the main reservation because housing became available in their area.
Me too. So maybe things have improved for the O'odham in the districts and on the reservation.
Yes, they have. We have funds from the HUD programs that are provided for housing, and so they're slowly catching up to the vast need of housing for our people to supply the homes that they're building.
So that's a good thing.
Mm.
What about the border issues? How do you see do you see a solution there for your people, like the people that are having trouble both from the border patrol and from the migrants and all kinds of difficult situations?
Yes, the border patrol. I'm sorry. The border issues between the U.S. and Mexico are paramount, and particularly the villages that are close to that area on the main reservation. Not so much for San Xavier, although we do get migrants that come through there. And as I understand it, and the way that my friends and relatives out in those areas have spoken, they've said that there's always been migrants coming through the area, and they would provide them water, maybe a little food to eat, and they would move on because they were looking for a better life. And it wasn't until the human trafficking, drug trafficking started up that things went bad in terms of the individuals living through there. The people going through there were just running over the desert areas, and then also having, some of the people that were coming through, whether they were in drugs or whatever, I'm not sure, they started stealing from the people there. So the people living there certainly began to rely more on the Border Patrol, whereas beforehand they didn't appreciate the Border Patrol being there because they didn't seem to have any regard for protecting the environment, or much less trying to understand that all the people are not all from Mexico, and they were harassing our people, and so our tribal leaders did meet with the federal officials regarding that, and establish a program to sensitize them to our culture. And so that program got initiated, but there is still the need for our people who are living in Mexico to come across for medical services. So there's still sometimes the Border Patrol still harasses the vehicles or individuals, but not as much as in the past. So it's just an ongoing process. And in terms of the overall immigration matter, I really don't have any ideas. I mean, I know that Congress is looking at ways, but not focusing on it, looking at ways to try to combat that whole issue. And it's just something that everybody has to come to terms with and agree on. And it centers a lot on politics. And I hate to say it, but still there's some racism involved, with the leadership in the United States and how they view it. And it's just they're not understanding the whole issue and simply want to shut the gates and not let anyone else in. And I just don't know.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Yes.
But is there anything else you'd like to add about anything yourself, the future? You said you have family? How many kids do you have?
I have 3 adult children and 6 grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So are they all in San Xavier too?
Yes, they are. They are. Yeah.
So how do you see, what is your hope for their future?
Well, I hope that they will be able to reside within the community for as long as they wish, and to be able to take care of the land and each other, and be able to build on our language and our customs and be able to be good, upstanding citizens of our community and educate others about who we are as they move forward in their lives and just lead good, positive lives.
Do you speak O'odham?
Yes, I do.
Do your kids speak O'odham?
They understand it, but they speak a little bit. And my grandchildren are the same. They will ask about how to say certain things. And so when they're with their friends, I kind of sometimes hear them talk a little bit O'odham, so that's good, yeah. So we do have programs to teach the language. And then on the ceremonies, we encourage our young people to become involved, and some of them have done that. And so there's hope that the language and the customs will continue.
If we can do anything to help, we're really interested in including O'odham and translating or into O'odham or from O'odham into other English and Spanish. And so we're always, if we can collaborate, that would be amazing, especially around language and the interpretation of all the plants and the foods and the land and the wildlife.
Yes, and maybe by now you do understand that there's different dialects in our language. So what one group of O'odham may say is different from San Xavier dialect. So, but
everybody's always very cautious to say this is how I say it, but then, somewhere else they might say it somewhere else. But that's true of any language.
Yes.
You just kind of have to acknowledge that. Of course.
Yeah.
Especially languages that were not written language until.
Oh yes. Yeah.
And everybody was living kind of isolated. That everybody has a different way. Every village has a different way of saying things.
That's right.
In some cases, even families. So that's. But still, it's a language that you can use to communicate, even if it's spelled slightly differently.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I still have to learn how to read and write it because I didn't grow up reading and writing. And then seems like the young people, they can read and write it more easily than speak it. So we just continually encourage them to speak it, if they know how to read and write it. So it's happening.
Would you like to close saying something in O'odham, even though we don't understand? Anything you want?
Sure. Begin si sabatat kmanihache kemedeskik tash manhache marchehmek humachkam abam nyamajet manhudiot. Kchu manhaswas mahache binyedam the baichtag yobam jedik dokat. Ni bash mas manyered matusache sahma mush mustwajet. Kabaiche sab monyuk de jodiga through the dokat wusache sapai boy taninye sapai boy tajine sapai boy twumta. Abani mas mahache budet. Beautiful. Basically, all I said was I was grateful to be here to talk about what I talked about, and that I always have a positive outlook on the future for our O'odham, but for all people as well.
So. Thank you. Really appreciate it so much.
Oh, certainly. Thank you for the opportunity.